Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone, and welcome to a beautiful episode of the Good Leader Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the power of language. This is in our New Year's transformations. We're still in January. I know I went on the whole rant about Happy New Year, but as you're going to find out over the next couple episodes, time is completely relative. What is not relative are the way you speak to yourself and to others, the words you use and how you use them. Incredibly powerful. Speaking of powerful words, how are you doing, Andrea Heyer? You good?
I'm great.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. It's good to hear.
Yeah.
Lemuel, you doing well?
I'm doing so good.
That's good.
Happy New Year.
Just Treat, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm actually really lovely right now.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, that's the crowd. It's our normal crew. Today, we're going to talk about the power of language, and we're going to give you 4 ways that you can use language more specifically, not just for goal setting, for mindset, transformation, all of the above. On the last episode, we really talked about replacing mindsets. We didn't go deep dive on mindset necessarily, but we talked about, replacing complaining with gratitude and replacing blame with responsibility, some of those things. And y'all gave some great tangible ideas. Today, we're going to start theoretical and then end practical with 4 ways of what do you mean? Just like change the words? Kind of, maybe. Maybe you literally need to change the words that you use. But more than that, I think it's the way we approach our goals and approach our year and the ideas that language speak to us, to our conscious activities and our subconscious. But before we do all that, it's time we step into the inspiration zone. Now, I know our musical drops have been tough. It's a little bit rocky. In a perfect world, we're going to have a different musical drop for everything. But I'm just going to abandon that. I'm not even going to try today, okay? So for future podcasts, maybe, Jess, I'm going to put you on this to team up with Lim. Lim is our technical guru. I'm going to let you search music and be like, you know what, Lim, here we go.
Great.
Here's some music for us. What do you think about this one? Can I assign that to you? Can I delegate that task? I think you'd be better than me, number one. I think you'll find some really good music.
I am all for the delegation. I will take it on.
Okay.
But I will say I believe that Lim is completely capable.
He's got a little
You
board.
trust? Yeah, I don't know. You trust it because sometimes, Lim, no
We
offense.
need a sticker.
We throw a topic and Lim's like, "What about this?" It's like, "Hey, we need some really, really serious music." And he's like, "Boom, chicka, bop, boom, chicka, bop." Like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "You guys like this one?"
To be fair, these are just kind of generic sounds. If we pick something, I'm all in.
Okay, all right.
I'll send us some options, and y'all can help vote.
You know what? I would love that.
I like the opening and closing though. Currently,
I do.
That's fine.
That's great. Love that.
We nailed that.
That's great.
1 out of 6.
That's great. But yeah, so we're batting. We're
1 to 6.
1 out of. I think more like 10 as we have just thrown it up. Now, in Lemuel's defense, we're really rocking and rolling here at the Good Leader Podcast. I'm just moving off the cuff.
We
I'm
do
just
change
throwing
things
it
up a
I'm like,
lot.
let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So musical, because we got a few segments I'm starting to like. We did Am I Right last week, which I found out I was right. We don't like this generic, just throw me a bunch of words to give me advice. I didn't like that from the leadership guru. Get out of here with that. But this is the inspiration zone. So we're going to take a trip in the inspiration zone. For those of you new to the podcast, here's how it works. What is inspiring the team here? I think that all too often, we just don't let ourselves be moved by the world around us. So what has inspired you? I got a good one. I'm fired up about mine. I'm excited about it. But I'd like to hear from you all first. I'm going to go last. And if you don't have one, that's okay. You say, you know what? I don't have anything. It's been a long time. We've stepped into the inspiration zone. Anybody got something? You ready to go? Jess is ready.
I do.
What do you got? What's inspiring you?
So I just want to say that I have become more accepting in the fact that it sounds silly, but I thoroughly enjoy writing.
Okay.
And I have always, I wrote for the newspaper in college. I enjoy it in that way, but also on an emotional
Cathartic.
poems, writing, journaling,
Okay.
And I feel like sometimes when you come into that headspace of that type of thing, it might be hard to say that you are a writer or self-proclaim that you are a writer. Well, I am self-proclaiming that this year.
Okay.
And I have been following.
What a roller coaster!
That was. I didn't know where we were going. Twists
Are we
and
going
turns.
left? Are we going right? Are we going
I mean, who's shocked? Nobody's shocked. But I have been following more writers who write and mostly on TikTok. So they'll video themselves doing their writing, all that. Love it. And I think that it's when you want to write a book, you should read more books type of situation.
Got it. Yep.
And I should be doing that as well. I should be reading more. But seeing it visually and hearing it has really inspired me to put myself in those shoes, I suppose. So
I love that for you. That's excellent.
I don't know if anyone else can take that and run with it, but just basically find the thing that you're interested in, follow people who are doing that same thing. Take it on your own.
I like it.
Ooh, I heard a good word on that today.
Good
I think
word.
it's from the
Word.
book The Diary of a CEO, and which is also a podcast, not to be confused, but I think the podcast actually started before the book. But
Okay.
anyway, same person. And he talks about the art of creating the obligation to teach. Because when you have to teach it, you actually have to learn it.
That's good.
And I could go on. I mean, I have it on my phone somewhere. Another podcast for another day. But I thought it was a really good, like, very true. It's not just good. It's like, wow, if I literally look back in my life.
That's good.
They say something like, if you want to learn about something, read it. If you want to understand something, write about it. But if you want to master something, teach it.
Yeah.
And I literally look back and
that
think
was
about
worth a
that.
sound drop of its own.
I know.
Moms, that was good. That was really good.
I told you I'm inspired.
You were. That was good. That was
Inspiration
I like that.
corner.
Wow, that is good.
One more time for the people in the back. No, it was good. It's from the Diary of a CEO. And it's like 33 just little tips, essentially, he writes each chapter off of. But that one I really, really thought was awesome. Read, write, teach. But I can like look back and think that is actually when I have truly been able to speak all the way around something, is when I've actually taught on it or made myself teach on it.
I like it.
good.
That's a good one. That's a podcast. That's a book. That's a phrase.
Yeah,
Lots
that's
of
good.
inspiration coming over there.
Snaps.
Lemuel, what you got?
This is very simple. So in the car, we let our daughter listen to what's called Garden Keeper Gus. Have y'all heard of that?
Not even
No.
close.
It is like a little 7-minute mini podcast for kids.
Okay.
And it's
Cute.
like a story about little kids that are doing things either outside or with their parents. And the sound quality is just so good. If you can't tell, I've said, this is a recurring thing. I just really like things that are well made.
Yeah.
So it's well made.
Yeah.
It's inspiring. It's cute. It's simple.
That's
What's
cool.
it called?
Garden Keeper Gus.
Garden Keeper Gus.
I'll check it out.
Seems like it's
Wow.
targeting
I'm
like
gonna check it
3
out.
to 5 year olds.
Wow,
So
yeah,
it's-
my son, I might have to get that.
Check that
Liam's
out.
gonna flip
Yeah.
that.
So if they're fussy in the car, this will just keep her quiet. She'll listen, stare out the window. It's inspiring.
Wow. Okay. Very
like,
cool. I like
cute.
that. Garden Keeper Gus.
We really have
That's good stuff.
an array
Yeah.
of
What a
things here.
swath. What a swath. Well, mine is more akin to Lem's. I watched Wonka a couple of weeks
I
ago.
did
Oh.
It's been out for about a month
I
now, maybe a
watched it
little
in the
more
theater.
at this point. But I watched it in the theater. I thought it was great.
I loved it.
I really liked it. I liked it. Has everybody seen it? You've
No.
seen it,
I have
Jesse.
not.
No,
Wonka.
okay.
It's a
Wonka.
new Willy Wonka, I'm guessing.
It's a prequel.
Timothy
Okay.
Chalamet.
Yeah.
Sounds
He
very
does a good
interesting.
job. He really does well. I liked
like
him.
him.
I liked him.
Yeah.
Hugh Grant stole the show as
Yeah.
the Oompa Loompa. He was phenomenal.
Was not expecting that.
He
That's
was
so-
great. They should have had him in it more.
Yeah.
I thought. I was like, yeah, this is great. Use that more.
Yeah.
But here's what the real inspiration, though. Okay. So this is next level. Wonka, great. Because of that, my kids wanted to watch the original. So we watched the original. Everett loves it. So I've seen the original Willy Wonka like 100 times in the last month. Okay. But
Man,
actually,
when they really find something, they just grab
Wow.
it. I've seen The Grinch. I could quote the whole movie to you,
the
probably.
best part, though, is he sings the Oompa Loompa song around the house, and that's
Oh.
pretty funny.
That's, yeah.
Oompa Loompa.
Adorable.
Dude, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But do you know who wrote the book? I think it's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is the actual name of the first book.
Yeah.
You know who wrote it?
Hmm.
Anybody?
William
I
Shakespeare.
don't know.
Roald Dahl.
Oh.
Okay. That
I
makes
thought it was going to be
sense.
someone very
Now
well
hold
known.
on. Okay, so my inspiration is Roald Dahl wrote so many things that we know. Matilda. You guys are probably familiar with Matilda.
Yep.
Jess definitely is.
Yeah, I
You
know
familiar with
Matilda.
Matilda?
Okay. I know Matilda before we do shots fired here.
I'm not firing
I've
shots.
watched it.
I just
I've watched it.
you're an anomaly either way. You're not generation. It's like
I like to
don't know
keep
if
you
I'm
on
just
your
going to know
toes.
this or not.
I
you
like
know?
to keep you on your toes.
So, but he wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. He wrote Matilda. He wrote James and the Giant Peach. He wrote something
James
else.
and the Giant Peach. Is
He
a
actually
big one.
wrote. He actually wrote.
I love
a
James and the Giant Peach.
Well, this is it's our boy
Yes.
Roald.
Come
One
on.
just joined.
Yeah, he wrote. God, I
Yeah,
need to
all
look it
the
up
others
now.
I
But
don't-
I
could care
looked it up coming out.
Wow, there we go. Lem.
That was one of my
That was
favorites as a kid. So cool.
Of
Yeah.
all the pop culture
like,
things we've
Yes.
talked about today.
I know
that was the
James and the
first-
Giant Peach is usually the one people are like, no, I don't know
That
what
was
that
the
is.
first thing.
It took me back in an
You
instant. I
really
heard
knew
that
that
and
one.
I was like, I forgot about that.
When
That
you get
really got me.
inspired, there's just a sparkle in your eye. And you're
Yeah,
just
like he's not going to fake it. If he's
Yeah.
not,
Yep.
if it's not
Okay,
interesting.
he wrote BFG,
Don't know that
Big
one.
Friendly Giant.
Oh.
He wrote The Fantastic Mr. Fox.
I love
Aw.
that one.
So wait, is it
wrote The
surprising then that he
Witches.
wrote the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? It seems like he wrote a lot of big hits.
He did. Did you know that he wrote all of those big hits? That was my inspiration, my surprise. I was like, you rattle off any of those, and I know them. I know The Witches. It was a movie when I was a kid. I know James and the Giant Peach. I know BFG.
Yeah.
It's like, Dr. Seuss has a million books.
Sure.
Right? You know what I'm saying? It's like, wow, that's a Dr. Seuss thing. And even like Tim Burton. Oh, that's kind of the Tim Burton world.
Sure.
But it's like Roald Dahl. I would have said James and the Giant Peach is the one I would have said. Just because, and then I also would have gone, I think he wrote Matilda too. Then it's like, did you know he did Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? No. Did you know he did this one? So it's like Dr. Seuss and then Roald Dahl, I would say, as far as like the last 75 years of children's literature and impact on culture. So I was just inspired by it.
It's cool.
I was like, once again, I was just like, man, you don't know what you're doing in the world, how big of an impact you're making. So keep on going, keep on making it. Speaking of writing, it was good. I was like, wow, this guy, good for you. Also, don't be discouraged if people don't give you as much credit as you deserve.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly did not give Roald as much credit as he deserves.
The greatest things of all time were never made.
Oh my gosh. The greatest things of all time.
I still find it so
power of
inspiring.
words, we're going to talk about the power of language. Because I am inspired right now. You know what? Let's take our break, and then we come back. I'm going to share this TEDx video that really blew my mind. I guess it's actually not even TEDx. I think it's the TED. She was on the TED stage. Very powerful, really cool story about the power of language. We'll get back after the break.
I don't want to do this commercial. But I'll have you guys know. Paradigm Shift is your one-stop shop for team building resources. You can buy cards, curriculum, you name it, we got it. Anything, some might say, at ps.company/store.
I like the strategy. You're going that
Set
that
yourself
direction.
low,
You're going,
really get yourself up there.
I like
Yeah.
that. This is an interesting strategy. We'll see how this unfolds.
You really just got to play to your strengths.
It's an anti-commercial. It's kind of funny.
It's pretty good. That's what I'm saying. I don't hate it. I'm curious to see how this plays out. This is me exemplifying good leadership. I'm just letting you live and learn over there.
No
I'm gonna tell you what to
micromanaging
do.
here.
No way. No way.
No interfering.
You go for it. I'm curious
They're
to see what
really
happens.
just letting me live in my confidence over
I'm
here.
really curious for those of you who can't see the off air, which is everyone listening to this. I'm really curious to see the inner office dynamic because Dina really, I think, is jonesing for your spot. I think she would take it if we gave it to her. I think if we said, "Hey, Dina, you want to take Justice Spot on the pod and do all of the do all the commercials?"
She would. I
She
told her
would.
she could, actually.
What?
Yeah, I was going to say,
You
Jess
just
would
gave it
probably
up that
love her.
easily?
She would probably love her to do
I
the
think
commercials.
I think the solution is just
You like
a
being on the
pre-record-
podcast.
I love this podcast.
That's what I
She
thought.
wouldn't give up her seat. She would give up the commercial.
That's what I'm saying, though. I think I'm just saying.
I'll
I'm
just
curious.
say
All right,
it. I
here we go.
think that the solution is a pre-recorded commercial.
And I'm saying you're in
That's
charge of it. All right. So Lyra Boroditsky is a cognitive scientist who has a TED Talk that is phenomenal. I encourage you to check it out. Lyra Boroditsky. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know how to say it. Certainly couldn't spell it. But if you Google up TED Talk, Lera, I bet she's the only Lyra. So Google that up. TED Talk, Lera. She's a cognitive scientist, and she has an entire discussion about the power of language, how we use it. I'm going to pick out a few highlights and then how it applies to us here at the Good Leader Podcast. She specifically talks about this tribe. It's a remote tribe in South America, I believe. I'm almost certain of that. Fact check me out there. But it's the Kirk Tayor people. And this people group does not use left or right. Now, process this for a second. This is going to be mind-blowing. That in and of itself is hard to comprehend. Like, okay.
I can barely use left and right as it is.
Well, okay. Do you hold up your hands like which one's the L? Okay.
I still do, but I do it down here.
Oh, nice. All
So
right.
you can't really.
Okay.
I'm glad we're being
All right.
transparent on
Okay.
this podcast.
You know what? I'm going to brag. I'm pretty quick at left and right. I can diagnose it pretty
Same.
dang fast, you know? I can even do it with someone else, you know? My right is your left, the mirror image.
It's the someone else for me. That's when I use my hands.
See, I'm pretty quick.
I'm like,
okay.
this is my left, that is their right.
Well, that is not necessarily even an indictment on your ability or your intelligence. It may be an indictment on the language and the way you've used left and right, because these individuals only use cardinal directions: north, south, east, west, northeast, northwest, like
I
that.
hate
So
those.
if I said, "Hey, will you hand me that cord that's on your left?" They would say, "Will you hand me that cord that's at your northeast?" And seriously, isn't that
That's
that's
wild.
wild to think about? You know what I'm saying? Like,
No thanks.
You know,
I didn't know where to look.
They basically have a compass in their minds.
yes, they have like a compass in their minds. So even the way that they greet people, the way they greet, you know, I'm always fascinated at like what the literal translations of like hello, goodbye, what do you know, thank you, what are you literally saying? And so for theirs is something akin to where you headed. instead of saying hi, or hi, how you doing? It's like, where are you going? And the response is a more technical, to the south, a long distance, or in the north, a short way. That's how I'm doing. And that's where I'm going.
Wow.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
Okay, now here's what Lyra, I'm going to call her by her first name because I'm butchering her last name. But here's what Dr. Lyra pointed out, which is fascinating, is for a long time, scientists in the scientific community really thought that humans didn't really possess abilities like animals to know this like innate compass, like to know where you are in connection with the world around you. Like that is not something that is a part of our human nature necessarily. Like, oh, yes, I'm completely, I know where I am in relation to other things and how far I am to the north, south, east, west. In fact, many people, I've noticed this, much like names, I think directions is something that people give up on quickly. Like if you said, I'm not good at directions. Like, you know what I'm saying? Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah,
People say that a lot. Like, it's like, hey, do you know I'm not good at names? Well, I'm not good at directions. Just tell me what's around there. Give me a landmark or whatever. I'll just GPS it. And I'm like, really? You don't even know? We're sitting here. You work here every day. You don't know which way north is?
No.
No.
I don't.
Okay. All right.
Not at all.
Well, this is what the power of language is. Number one, we thought for a long time as humans we couldn't do it. Turns out we can. It's just that we don't train ourselves to think that way with the language we use. So she said this phrase, which I loved. If your language or your cultural training says you can do it, teaches you to do it, then you can do it. If your language or cultural training teaches you to do it, then you can do it. And so these individuals are not just adept in the moment, but it's also like, I used to really, one of my rites of passage into adulthood was to know cardinal directions in other places. Like growing up, my mom and dad both actually are really good at north, south, east, and west, no matter where you go. Like if you said, hey, we're going to the, Oklahoma City Fairgrounds. And it's like, oh yeah, it's on the east side. I'd be like, oh my, the east side of the Oklahoma City Fairgrounds? I have no idea where that is. Mm-hmm. So when I started being able to do that, I really felt accomplished. Like, yeah, I can, like when I go to Spokane, I can tell you, that's going to be on the north side. It's going to be on the south side. In the same way, it's because we train ourselves to do that. Now, here's where I'm going with this. The language then that you are using in relation to your goals, your future, your life, how you want to be, it's very akin to other things like self-limiting beliefs and those sorts of things. But I just want to take the broadest levels and say, what actual language are you using? One more nerdy thought is, English is one of the few languages that doesn't use like a male, female description, or like, I don't even know, I'm not a linguist, but like Spanish has the male, female version.
Yeah.
It's like el, la.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's fascinating is they've done linguistic studies. Germanic has male, female, but not exactly the same way as Spanish. So like, for example, bridge is feminine in German and masculine in Spanish. Mm-hmm. So most German speakers, if you say describe a bridge, they will use stereotypically feminine words. Like they'll say beautiful, graceful, elegant. Whereas if you ask a Spanish speaker, they'll use stereotypically male words, strong, firm, things that's like, wow, okay. Just because that's subconsciously what their language is training them to see. In the same way, this is the last one. I'm telling you, watch the video. It's really good.
No, I like where this is
It's
going.
really
I
good.
mean,
Okay.
great.
Yeah.
But the
Sounds
last
great.
one, okay, English really demands a specific subject. So in other words, you can't just say the vase broke.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really tough sentence for us. It's like, the vase broke? Like, imagine if your child said that. Like Everett, my 5-year-old, comes, hey, daddy, the vase broke. Or even better, my 13-year-old, hey, the vase broke. It just broke? Mm-hmm. Like the vase just broke.
Shattered.
Mm-hmm.
Shattered. It's just sitting there on its own. What did it sprout legs and jump off of the table?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, even we're sarcastic and we're snarky about it. Like, no, did you break the vase? Did one of your siblings? Did it fall off? Like, did you hit the table? Like, we demand a subject-verb relationship, okay?
Yeah.
Side note, if you're of the Christian ilk specifically, or any spiritual discipline and curious, I'm rereading a book called Misreading Scripture Through Western Eyes, also powerful language stuff. Mm-hmm. And even if you're not like, it's so interesting just learning about other cultures and other languages and how that affects the way that we view things, even just on a leadership lens. So both these things have kind of hit me in the same space. And I'm going, wow, okay, so most other languages, the vase broke is a completely acceptable sentence. Mm-hmm. In fact, it is the preferred sentence. In fact, if it was an accident, and this is powerful, especially for you parents out there, if it was an accident, an actual accident, in most languages, there is not blame assigned. So if I accidentally knock my cup off, of this table. It was a pure accident. You all know it was an accident. And I say parents just because I see myself as a parent. Like we know when it's an accident. The kid accidentally did it. Our language though teaches us I spilled the glass. I spilled the milk. I knocked over the cup. I broke the vase. Most languages do not assign that. If it was an accident, it's just the cup spilled. The vase broke. Think of how crazy different our worldview would be just with that switch. You know what I'm saying? Like, isn't that crazy?
How like innately different we would be.
Yes.
If we didn't feel such blame for
Yeah.
like bad things happening or like.
Right. Especially when it was, I
crazy.
literally did, I did not do it on purpose. It was certainly an accident. Or if we're like, well, I guess it was my fault. Like, yeah, I'm the one who left the door unlocked, or I guess, but I even like, hey, who left the door unlocked? Well, I left the door unlocked because I thought you were coming behind me and I didn't know we were done. It's like, oh, so you know, even things like even in the workspace where it's like, wow, you assign, so we assign blame or assign, we shouldn't even say blame. We assign responsibility in our language very quickly. How about this one? Okay, I'm going to keep going because y'all are really liking it.
It's good.
It's just kind of blowing my mind a little
It
bit.
kind of does.
I could see a positive to talking that way as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm not giving I'm not giving a positive negative.
Okay.
I'm just giving wow, think of how you would think differently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Positive or negative.
Sure.
How about this one? I broke my arm. Totally normal sentence, right? Makes absolute sense to us.
But it sounds like you broke
In
it.
most cultures, that sentence is, and this is why English is a second language, part of. English is a ridiculous language anyway, but this is part of. It's not just the like, wow, the spelling is off and the plurals are off. It's also like, what, you broke your arm? So unless she even uses this as an example, she says, unless you are a lunatic and you have gone out and physically worked to break your own arm intentionally, that sentence makes no sense to most of the world. Like, you didn't break your arm. Your arm was broken by this thing, or you had an accident, or all these different things happened, but you didn't intentionally break your arm.
Yeah.
So crazy to think about it. And where I want to bring this today
Yeah.
is to wrap this up and actually bring us to a poignant, because we could go a million directions. Is this positive? Is this negative? All sorts of things. I don't even want us to go that way because we could go all over. I'm just kind of setting the table, and I encourage you to check out that TED Talk. What I want to encourage you with is to understand, right, wrong, or indifferent, the language you use is powerful. The language we use with ourselves is powerful, that we're using with our families, that we're using with the people around us in our workplace. Not even like, wow, I should use more positive language. Maybe, but also just what types of language are you using? What types of words are we putting in the ethos for ourselves? So here are 4 ways. And I heard this phrase back in December that I really liked. You have to lead yourself before you can lead others. And so largely this month, we're going to talk about leading yourself. And in leading yourself, here are 4 ways. And I'd like to throw these out, and then we can talk about all of it. 4 ways of improving your language or being more conscious of your language as we move forward this year. A vision board, a vision book, positive affirmations, and a word of the year. And we're not going to deep dive on each of these. Each of those could be its own podcast. In fact, if you're interested in that, you can Google up any of those phrases and get 10,000 hours of content, ideas, and resources on any of those. My encouragement to you all is have something. Now, I've said that. Pressure on our team. Have you found success with any of those? Do you use any of that? Do you have something like it? In other words, when it comes to goals, achievement, mindset, all those types of things, how are you using language, or even now thinking about like, I think I need to use it differently or more? And those are just 4 ways. There are umpteen ways that you could do it. Those are 4 that I've experienced personally, and I'm going to give you my 2 cents at the end of this thing. Vision board, vision book, positive affirmations, word of the year. Is anybody using any of that right now or anything else?
I have something that's, I think it kind of goes under affirmation, but also somewhat vision board.
Okay.
I saw a poem on Instagram.
Okay.
And I was reading it and I really resonated with it, but I pulled things from it that stuck out to me the most. And I made a graphic for it and I printed it out and I put it at my desk and I put it as my wallpaper on my laptop.
Oh,
And it just says, making my best guess, making my own luck, making a difference, making a mess, making it happen.
I would totally call that an affirmation.
Yeah. And so I feel like being successful and messing up can coexist. And so I feel like I'm trying to be more in that type of mindset
Okay.
this year, right now specifically.
Okay.
So I just look at that every day and I'm like, I'm creating this life for myself. It's okay to mess up. And I know that I'm making a difference in whatever I do. So
Okay. I like it. Anybody else doing anything? And if not, that's okay.
When you say vision book, is it that like a book you're getting vision from?
Great
What do you
question.
mean?
Great question. I'm glad you asked. I
Your
was really
journal.
waiting. I was really setting you up for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I
my,
knew.
my quick definitions of each of these. Vision board, pretty classic. You've probably heard of that. If you're listening to this podcast, you probably have heard of it. If you've never done it, I've done vision boards in the past. I actually really, really like them. It can be as big or as little as you want. It's a piece of paper. It's a poster board. It's anything. But the key with a vision board is kind of visual. Like you have to look at it. Now, it can certainly be words. It could be a poem. It could be a picture. Classically, this comes from like the kind of think of like the Tony Robbins, the Jack Canfield idea of like writers of the book The Secret years ago, things like that. It's almost like manifesting it. I don't know about manifesting it so much, but I do believe in the power of language. And if like I keep saying like, I want to do this thing, I want to do this thing, you'll probably do that thing. So whether it's professional goals or personal goals, the classic one is like if you want to build a house or buy a house, print off a picture of the house of your dreams, put it on the board. That's what I mean. If it's instead of just saying the words, like that's goal setting, I want to build a house, but the vision board capitalizes on vision and puts it on there, which I think is powerful for us, talking about the power of language, because I saw another graphic that I really like, and it was like these concentric circles, and it was like what I think is the largest circle. The next circle is what I can put into words. The next circle is what I tell people. And like the last phrase is like what I teach, maybe even. But it was like, oh yeah, wow. So we think things. It's like, I really can't put it into words. That's why a vision board is palpable.
Yeah.
Vision book, and I've got mine somewhere. I'm actually just taking it to the next level because what I found with a vision board is that's great. I travel a lot and I'm not always in the same place and I can't look at that. So I actually just bought a journal and I turned that, or a notebook, I shouldn't even say a journal, bought a notebook, and that's my vision book. Like I've got my affirmations in there. I've got pictures. I've got goals. I also like it because I'm the type, I'm very tactile in my learning. So I like writing them over and over and over. Like I like writing it again, saying it again, like circling things, highlighting different things. So it's actually a notebook. Maybe vision notebook is better.
Yeah.
But it's a vision notebook instead of just a board plastered in the same place. Here's my vision board. That's my vision notebook.
Yeah.
And I'm flipping through it. Positive affirmations, just kind of alluded to it. It's a phrase. It can really be anything. There are not a lot of strict rules here. The classic way that I like, and usually when I'm coaching people for the first time, I say use I am or we are statements. Like I am doing this thing. Even if it's not like a hardcore, measurable goal. We talked last podcast about more or less. It's like, I am living in the moment. Okay, great. Make that your affirmation. Say it every day, or at least read it, think about it. If you meditate, it can be something you take into meditation. If you pray, it can be something that you actually just pray about. So those are positive affirmations, very powerful. I've shared this on the podcast, but super powerful time in my life where I started affirmations. I was very judgmental, started, and then totally changed my life. Word of the year is actually my least favorite. Personally, but I don't judge it. It's just my personal least favorite. You pick a word and that's your word for the year. Super popular if you're on LinkedIn or, people share their words of the year. Maybe you all have a word of the year. I don't have a word of the year. I actually have kind of a statement of the year that's a part of my vision book. So those are 4 descriptions. I should have given them a little more, but that's what me and Anj. What do you got going on? Any of that? Some of that? None of that?
No, I do a lot of, I have learned that I'm just so much more of a thinker in these things, and it really ebbs and flows, especially the season that I'm in. But I do know I went into, I really don't want to say this year because I'm not somebody who, if I say it today, I'm not going to carry it all year long.
Yeah.
But I know at least from now till like early summer, I am really like this word clarity has been very in my mind. Clarity, even as it relates to like what I say yes and no to, my calendar, what I'm responsible for, what I'm not, even like clarity and maybe how John and I want to lead our family. Like it goes very shallow or very deep. That's kind of what I like about it. But I've just found myself going into the year really looking for that. I really hesitate to call it my word of the year, like I said, but a lot of what I'm trying to orchestrate the rest of my life around is based in that clear schedule, clear mind, things like that.
Okay. All right. Lim, how about you?
I actually sort of do a version of almost each one of those, but I'm not intentional about it in the sense of this is my thing that I'm focusing on, if that makes sense. So I have a vision board, I guess you could call, for my workouts. Here's what I'm going to do. Here are my workouts,
Sure.
in my garage. So I work out in my garage. I journal quite a bit. I guess you could call that a vision book where I'm constantly doing what you described. Positive affirmations, not so much. We do have family values, but I'm not sure that fits into that. And then I kind of have been going by words of the year, but not picking it at the beginning of the year. So
Okay.
I don't know if that even counts, but I'm
Yeah.
semi-intentional about some of those things.
Well, and as you know,
Yeah.
here on the Good Leader Podcast, for those of you listening, we have these conversations in real time and in all honesty. So like none of these conversations are set up. I ask this question not knowing if it's yes, no. I have no idea what they're going to say. I think, and going back, and I encourage everybody to listen to the TED Talk and really apply it to this, because in much the same way, it's like, here are my tips then from my years of experience with this. I started out being super radically judgmental about all these things. First time I heard positive affirmations, I was like, that's stupid. That's just stupid. I am not going to do that. I'm not going to write this down, say it every day, or even look at it. That's dumb. I'm not going to do it. I was super judgmental about it. I was even not skeptical, but I was like, okay, I don't know. Like, is there a difference in writing your goals down and having goals? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I'm doing pretty well. I'm talking, this is 20 years ago in my life. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I'm pretty successful now. I'm getting things done that I want to get done. I don't know. Do I need to have goals? So I will say, over the last 20 years, none of it is magical, but I've done now all of these different things. And the older I get, the more I'm like, holy cow, I'm actually just starting to double down on this more. Like, because I don't think it is magical, and it's not going to, well, I wrote down that thing and then it happened. No. But I think it is more akin to this, the idea of language, and just like, wow, I'm not good at northeast directions. I'm not good at cardinal directions. Well, you probably could be, but if you're not actively pursuing that in your life and you're not writing it down and you're not putting it into your language, thinking about it, then of course you're not. You know, it's like, I'm not that. But man, when you think about the power of language, then when it comes to these sorts of things, I challenge everyone listening, if you're skeptical or kind of hum-ha about any of it, go all in and try. So that's my first tip. I got 3 tips that I'm going to close out on. Go all in and see what happens. You know, it might not work. It might not be different. But I would encourage even our team here, if you're like, well, I've kind of got one, I would encourage you to just go for it and see what happens. And what I mean by go for it, I mean lean in and really be dorky. It is dorky. Like, okay, clarity is kind of my word of the year. So what? I should like write that down and put it where I can see it? I would say yes. Should I, have that as a screensaver on my phone? Yep. If that's where you want to have it, great. And like I said, there's no like rules. Like I wouldn't say word of the year is better than vision board. You got to do this. I don't care. There's no like prescription in that to my mind. Like I will say for me, my like affirmations or mantra this year is I want to become religious about my calendar, radical about vision, and relentless about goals. That's it. That's my boom. And I'm saying that to myself over and over. I write it. I read it. I've got it in my vision book, all those types of things. So lean in and be dorky. I'm not guaranteeing that it's going to work, but I bet it's not going to take you further away. I bet it's like, well, you know, I really would have worked out well, but I really put a lot of work in that vision board and I'm seeing it every day and now I'm not doing it. Probably not.
I'm going to have to put flossing on my vision board.
Yeah.
Seriously. Hey, I will say this. If I put flossing on my vision board and read it every single day, I bet I would floss more than the 2 times I flossed last year.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys
Not a
know,
flosser.
You guys
You
know
are
me
a
and
flosser.
flossing.
Good
Yeah.
job. I know.
If you want a TED Talk on it, I'll really.
Tip number 2.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you must not have been here when
You
I
weren't
shared.
now. Revisit often. Doesn't have to be daily. Once again, you
Yeah.
don't have to be religious about it. You don't have to have a certain, like, I wake up at this time and I repeat these things. I like what Jess said. You put it on your screensaver. You've got it around. Great. But visit it often. I think many people say, oh yeah, I tried setting goals. It didn't work. Okay, on January 1st, you wrote out this ridiculous achievement-based thing, and then you didn't think about it. You didn't change any habits. You didn't even look at it again. And then at the end of the year, go, oh, yep, didn't lose weight again. Remember, these are New Year's transformations. That's the theme of this whole thing. It's like not just be a goal setter, but transform the way you approach this. Transform the language you're using. Transform the language you're using with yourself and revisit it often. And finally, number 3, tell others. When you have that vision board, once again, it's about accountability. It's also about the language you're using, like putting yourself out there. Sometimes it's the vulnerability, but sometimes it's the confidence. Sometimes it's I'm going to do this. I'm going for it. Sometimes it's the encouragement that you need from others when you tell someone else, and they can encourage you with that. So all of these things, I want us to get to the root of this, which is the power of language. And as we close out today, we've talked about a lot of stuff. It doesn't have to be about the vision boards or anything like that. I do think those are 4 really great tangible pieces to use, but we've talked about a lot today. Any big takeaways as we close this out? What are your big thoughts? Remember, we talked all about the Dr. Lyra and the language and all those types of things. What are you walking away with from this podcast, even if it's an interesting nugget that you don't want to forget?
As you're describing language, that phrase "words create worlds" came to mind. So just paying attention to what I'm saying, what's being said in my household, the people I'm leading, I think is definitely valuable. Something I'm going to cling on to.
I love it.
Yeah, I think when it comes to words, especially because I also never used to be a New Year's or a resolution person. I've always been a goal-oriented person, but the idea of like, you're just a brand new person January 1st has never, I almost like refused to do it because I was like, that's stupid. If I want to start it, I'm going to start it January 15th if I want to, you know, whatever. But I've come around full circle. And so whenever you're making those goals, I've learned for myself how I phrase them also really matters.
Yeah.
Like even for me, there was so much more freedom in lose 10 pounds to work out 30 minutes a day, whether that's a walk, whether that's it's actually the second one, the action-oriented one that changed my lifestyle. It wasn't the hope and the dream that had no action attached, you know, work out 30 minutes a day. That's an action. Hope to lose 10 pounds is not, there's actions to it, but that's an outcome. You know, I think we base a lot of goals around outcomes and not so much around action. And so I think what you're saying with words is really pivotal for that.
Yeah.
I think that goes more into you were talking in the last episode of, I want to do more of this thing as opposed to
Less.
I'm going to lose 10 pounds or whatever the case may be. I really love your first tip of see what happens.
Yeah.
That phrase just kind of stuck out to me. And I feel like there's absolutely nothing wrong with seeing what happens.
Yep.
And I think when you set a goal, sometimes you're like, have to do it. But if you're just doing the more of the little things, seeing what happens will probably get you a lot farther.
Well, and it goes back to the general direction that we're heading. I encourage you, whatever you are wanting to achieve this year, what direction you want to go. By achieve, I'm using that very broadly. Like I want to be more of, less of. I want in, I want out. I want to do this. Maybe you do have very specific goals that you want. Maybe you have some things that you need to achieve this year. I totally acknowledge all of that. The power of words is going to affect all of it. In the way that we phrase it, the way that we say it to ourselves, it affects our beliefs, the way that we think. Like I love that, Lemuel, you said words create worlds. And by worlds, to me, my interpretation is those worlds create beliefs. Those worlds create barriers. Those worlds create your encouragement. And so start by priming the pump, whether it's a vision board, a word for the year, an idea, a quote, a poem like Jess has, whatever it is. Use your own personality and your own insight, but by all means, use words specifically and powerfully because they do affect us. So consider your words, go out there and be a good leader.